Today on the show, deposition reveals late Senator McCain's role in Spygate scandal, the story by Jeff Carlson. David Kramer, a longtime associate of the late Senator John McCain, revealed in an unsealed deposition that he had had contact with at least 14 members of the media regarding the Steele dossier, a collection of 17 memos containing unverified allegations against Donald Trump. Additionally, Kramer gave a full copy of the unverified dossier to Senior Director for Russian Affairs at the National Security Council, Celeste Wallander, Adam Kinzinger, and House Speaker Paul Ryan's Chief of Staff, Jonathan Burks. Kramer also provided a briefing in early December 2016 on the dossier to both Wallander and Victoria Nuland, the Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and Eurasian Affairs. Kramer also provided ongoing updates to Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson, former MI6 spy and dossier author Christopher Steele, and other members of the media regarding McCain's meeting with FBI Director James Comey. Steele had been hired by Simpson on behalf of the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee to produce the so-called Steele dossier on Donald Trump. Kramer, in his deposition, confirmed that he was BuzzFeed News' source for the dossier. BuzzFeed published the dossier online in January 2017, resulting in a defamation lawsuit. The Epoch Times covered the court case in a previous article. We will leave the link in the description below. McCain famously denied ever providing a copy of the dossier to BuzzFeed, telling the Daily Caller, "I gave it to no one except for the director of the FBI. I don't know why you're digging this up now." Kramer, who is an affiliated senior fellow at the McCain Institute, revealed in his deposition that he had been in contact with 14 journalists and producers about the dossier. These included staff from ABC News, BuzzFeed, CNN, The Guardian, McClatchy, Mother Jones, NPR, The Washington Post, and The Wall Street Journal. Kramer, who does not appear to have spoken with the New York Times, noted that both Simpson and Steele were speaking to the Times directly because they felt it required investigation by a serious news outlet, and they seemed to have chosen the Times at that point. Kramer says he was initially approached about the Steele dossier in November of 2016 by Sir Andrew Wood, the former British ambassador to Russia, during a meeting at the Halifax International Security Forum in Canada. Kramer knew Wood previously from their mutual expertise on Russia. Notably, Wood may have worked on behalf of Steele's company, Orbis Business Intelligence. He was referenced in a UK court filing as an associate of Orbis, and Kramer referred to Wood as an advisor to Orbis in his deposition. Wood had been previously briefed on the dossier by Steele in London. Kramer said that Wood told him that he was aware of information that he thought I should be aware of and that Senator McCain might be interested in. McCain, Wood and Kramer would meet later that afternoon on November 19, 2016, in a private meeting at the Halifax conference. Wood told both Kramer and McCain that he was aware of this information that had been gathered that raised the possibility of collusion and compromising material on the president-elect, and he explained that he knew the person who had gathered the information and felt that the person was of utmost credibility. Kramer ascribed the word collusion 3 times to Wood in his deposition. Wood also mentioned that there was the possibility of a video of a sexual nature that might have shown the president-elect in a compromising situation. According to Kramer, Wood said that if it existed, that it was from a hotel in Moscow when President-elect, before he was President-elect, had been in Moscow. No such video was ever uncovered or given to Kramer. Kramer testified that following the description of the video, the senator turned to me and asked if I would go to London to meet with what turned out to be Mr. Steele. Kramer travelled to London to meet with Christopher Steele on November 28, 2016. Kramer reviewed all the memos during his meeting with Steele, but was not provided with a physical copy of the dossier. In response to a question regarding Steele's sources, Kramer noted that there was a piece of paper in which the names were there. Kramer testified that he recognized some of the names on the paper that Steele purported to be his sources. The matter of sources was returned to later in Kramer's deposition, when he indicated that at least one of the names was a serious, high-level source. Kramer's familiarity with the names of Steele's alleged sources is of some interest. Although the dossier has been largely discredited, the fact that Kramer recognized these alleged sources indicates they were likely fairly well-known names. The identities of these alleged sources has not been publicly reported. Notably, these sources were second and third hand, as both Steele and Kramer testified that there was an intermediary between Steele and these sources. Kramer noted that Steele told him that the information in the dossier needed to be corroborated and verified. According to Kramer, Steele said he did not feel that he was in a position to vouch for everything that was produced in this. At the conclusion of the meeting, Kramer said Steele told him that he would arrange for Glenn Simpson to get me a copy of the material upon my return to Washington. When Kramer returned to Washington, he was provided with a copy of the dossier, which at that point consisted of 16 memos, at a meeting with Simpson on November 29, 2016. Kramer also testified that there was another individual, a male, present at the meeting. Interestingly, Kramer testified that Simpson gave him 2 copies of the dossier, noting that Simpson told him that one had more things blacked out than the other. Kramer said it wasn't entirely clear to me why there were 2 versions of this, but I took both versions. Kramer noted that Simpson, who was aware the dossier was being given to McCain, said the dossier was a very sensitive document and needed to be handled very carefully. Despite this warning, Kramer showed the dossier to a number of journalists and had discussions with at least 14 members of the media, along with some individuals in the US government. Kramer testified that he, McCain, and McCain's Chief of Staff, Christopher Brose, met to review the dossier on November 30th, 2016. Kramer suggested that McCain provide a copy of the dossier to the director of the FBI and the director of the CIA. McCain later passed a copy of the dossier to Comey on December 9, 2016. It isn't known whether McCain also provided a copy to then CIA Director John Brennan. Notably, Brennan did attach a 2-page summary of the dossier to the intelligence community assessment that he delivered to outgoing President Barack Obama on January 5, 2017. Kramer said that he was not aware of the content of McCain's December 9th discussion with Comey, noting that he did not get any readout from the senator on the meeting, but just that it had happened. Kramer did, however, provide updates to Steele and Simpson regarding the status of McCain's meeting with Comey and subsequent discussions with Simpson and Steele. It was mostly just to inform him about whether or not the senator had transmitted the document to the FBI. Both he and Mr. Steele were. I kept them apprised of where the senator was in terms of his contact with the FBI. The implications of this statement are significant. Kramer, a private citizen, was providing updates to a former British spy as to what a sitting senator was saying to the director of the FBI. Other members of the media also had some awareness of McCain's intention to meet with Comey. Kramer testified that both Mother Jones reporter David Korn and Guardian reporter Julian Borger came to meet with him. According to Kramer, they were mostly interested in Senator McCain and whether he had given it to Director Comey or not. Several days after McCain, Brose and Kramer met to discuss the dossier, Kramer said that McCain instructed him to meet with Victoria Nuland, the Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and Eurasian Affairs, and Russian Affairs Director Celeste Wallander. The purpose of the meeting was to verify whether the dossier was being taken seriously. Both Nuland and Wallander were previously aware of the dossier's existence, and both officials previously knew Steele, whom they believed to be credible. Kramer said he did not physically share the dossier with them at this point, but met again with Wallander, a National Security Council member, around New Year's and gave her a copy of the document. Nuland had actually received a copy of the earlier Steele memos back in July of 2016. Steele produced a final memo dated December 13, 2016. According to UK court documents, Kramer, on behalf of McCain, had asked Steele to provide any further intelligence that he had gathered relating to alleged Russia interference in the US presidential election. Notably, it appears it was this request from McCain that led Steele to produce his December 13th memo. Although Kramer did not provide a date, he said he received the final Steele memo sometime after Senator McCain had provided the copy to Director Comey. We know that Kramer received the final memo prior to December 29th when Kramer met with BuzzFeed reporter Ken Bingsinger. Kramer showed a copy of the dossier to BuzzFeed News reporter Ken Bingsinger on December 29, 2016, during a meeting at the McCain Institute, which according to Kramer was closed for the holidays during that whole week. There is apparently some dispute as to how Bingsinger obtained physical possession of the dossier. A footnote within the court document notes that there is disagreement between Kramer and Bingsinger about whether Kramer gave Bingsinger a copy or whether Bingsinger took photos of the dossier when Kramer was not looking. According to Kramer, he testified that Bingsinger said he wanted to read them. He asked me if he could take photos of them on his, I assume it was an iPhone. I asked him not to. He said he was a slow reader, he wanted to read it. And so I said, I got a phone call to make and I had to go to the bathroom. Kramer said that he left him to read it for 20-30 minutes. Kramer also testified that he gave a final copy of the dossier to two other people in early January 2017, Rep. Adam Kinzinger and House Speaker Paul Ryan's Chief of Staff Jonathan Burks. In regard to Kinzinger, Kramer noted, "I felt I could trust him. I really got to know him at the Halifax meeting. He strikes me as a very serious and honourable person, and I felt that someone on the side of Congress should be aware." By late December, additional members of the media had obtained copies of the dossier. The ICA on alleged Russian hacking was released internally on January 5th, 2017. On this same day, outgoing President Barack Obama held an undisclosed White House meeting to discuss the ICA and the attached summation of the dossier with National Security Advisor Susan Rice, FBI Director James Comey, and Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates. Rice would later send herself an email documenting the meeting. The following day, a declassified version of the intelligence community assessment was publicly released. Comey then met with President-elect Trump to inform him of the dossier. Comey would only inform Trump of the salacious details contained within the dossier. He later explained on CNN in an April 2018 interview that he had done so at the request of Clapper and Brennan because that was the part that the leaders of the intelligence community agreed he needed to be told about. Shortly after Comey's meeting with Trump, both the Trump-Comey meeting and the existence of the dossier were leaked to CNN. The significance of the meeting was material, as Comey noted in a January 7th memo. Media like CNN had them and were looking for a news hook. I said it was important that we not give them their excuse to write that the FBI has the material. The media had widely dismissed the dossier as unsubstantiated and therefore unreportable. It was only after learning that Comey briefed Trump on it that CNN reported on the dossier. The House Intelligence Committee report on Russian election interference confirmed that Clapper personally leaked confirmation of the dossier along with Comey's meeting with Trump to CNN. The committee's investigation revealed that President-elect Trump was indeed briefed on the contents of the Steele dossier, and when questioned by the committee, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper admitted that he confirmed the existence of the dossier to the media. Additionally, the House Intelligence report shows Clapper appears to have been the direct source for CNN's Jake Tapper and his January 10th story, which disclosed the existence of the dossier. When initially asked about the leaks relating to the ICA in July 2017, former DNI Clapper flatly denied discussing the dossier compiled by Steele or any other intelligence related to Russia hacking of the 2016 election with journalists. Clapper subsequently acknowledged discussing the dossier with CNN journalist Jake Tapper and admitted he might have spoken with other journalists about the same topic. Clapper's discussion with Tapper took place in early January 2017, around the time IC leaders briefed President Obama and President-elect Trump on the Christopher Steele information, a 2-page summary of which was enclosed in the highly classified version of the ICA. On January 10, 2017, CNN published the article, Intel Chiefs Presented Trump with Claims of Russian Efforts to Compromise Him, by Evan Perez, Jim Shikuto, James Tapper, and Carl Bernstein. The allegations within the dossier were made public, and with reporting of the briefings by intelligence community leaders, instant credibility was given to the dossier's assertions. Immediately following the CNN story, BuzzFeed published the Steele dossier, containing highlighted portions made by Kramer, and the Trump-Russia conspiracy was pushed into the mainstream. Kramer was asked about his reaction when CNN broke the story on the dossier. According to his deposition, Kramer stated, "I believe my words were, holy shit." Kramer, who was meeting with the Guardian's Julian Berger, when CNN reported on the dossier, said he quickly spoke with Steele, who was shocked. The following day, January 11, 2017, Clapper issued a statement condemning the leaks, without revealing the fact that he was the source of the leak. On November 17, 2017, Clapper submitted his resignation as Director of National Intelligence. His resignation became effective on January 20th, 2017. In August 2017, CNN hired Clapper as its national security analyst. That's all we have for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I do hope you've enjoyed this in-depth report. From all of us here, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.